please. I am Greg Seaver. I'm the chairman of this committee. The committee is established to have an ad hoc committee for the purpose of considering the sale of 13 acres on Old Ridgeberry Road. What I'd like to do for purposes of identification is to go around the table and have everybody introduce themselves into the record. If I can, start with you, Shay.
Okay. Shay Nairchef, committee member.
Pensionese committee member.
Russ Pinto, Deputy Corporation Counsel.
Dave Sandler, Finance Director.
Frank Andrews, just a citizen.
Wayne Shepard, Chief of Staff, Office of the Mayor.
Jeff Miller, videographer. There you go.
Mike Haddad, Council at Large.
Andrew Wetmore, City Council.
Jack Knapp, City Council.
Mr. Foley.
To me, Paul Foley, the developer.
Gentlemen.
Dennis Alpern, Planning Director.
Mayor Martin.
Thank you, everybody. This committee has met before. I'd like to read something into the record that I received just as I got here from the Planning Zoning Department. The following items from the August meeting, the City Council will refer to Planning Commission in accordance with Section 8-24 of the statutes. Number 1, request for an ad hoc sale of 13 acres of city land, Old Ridgeberry Road. The city owns 13.1 acre parcel on land along Old Ridgeberry Road. It is Phase 3 in a reserved PND and proposed in the PND master plan for municipal use. Lands across from Old Ridgeberry Road are zoned CA80. Previous discussions have indicated an interest in private parties to develop the parcel as a shopping center consisting of retail stores, restaurants, a theater, and a studio, a food market, and related parking. However, the proposal is not permitted under the current PND zoning for the designation municipal, restricts use of parcel to municipal use, indicating schools, police, and fire station utilities. Should the City Council decide to sell the land to accommodate a shopping center, we recommend rezoning the parcel to a CA80. That is the most direct approach for retaining it in the PND zone. Would require both an amendment to the master plan and PND zoning regulations to allow uses which could later be applicable to other lands in PND. That could undermine the integrity of the PND. Rezoning of the CA80 avoids these issues because all the proposed shopping center uses are already permitted in CA80. The master plan would only have to be amended to delete Phase 3 perfunctory matter. The change to the plan would simply be a matter of revising it to reflect new realities. We have no objection to the sale, assuming the city has no plans for its use. Terms of the sale are beyond our purview. Number 7, request for extension of time, sewer extension. This does nothing to do with it. And then there was a, I apologize for that. Then there was a planning commission received a request, and they made a motion to give a positive recommendation to this suggestion. That was from Arnie Finaldi. Now, that out there, Mr. Mayor, would you like to comment on what's going on here?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bless you. Just to refresh everybody's memory, this was a piece of property that the council approved, I think, by a vote of 1902 to lease. We conducted a public hearing on said lease, and it was essentially a 99-year lease with, I think, an option to purchase at the end of the lease. Mr. Foley had come in and brought some of the documentation as to the kind of development, be it largely a mixed-use development with retail, restaurants, small stores, no big box or anything like that, tied into a 400-seat theater, and then there would be approximately 5,000 square feet of flex space for the city's economic development office to use for the filmmaking industry. When as you remember, several years ago, when they filmed The Private Life of Pippa Lee here in Danbury, they used the Vanderbilt School, rented out for the city for 2 years to do that. So this would be a post-production, production flex space. It would easily move walls around, but would have access to power, phone lines, technology, and all the things that you would need to basically put the movie together. The theater itself would be for independent films. It would not be like a Lowe's kind of setup. The objective there is to give residents an alternative in terms of film, obviously on the west side, but also to enhance and to continue to spur development along the independent film line. And that's kind of the vision of what we're planning out there. In addition to that, just to give you some history of the site, that site was initially proposed to be where the minor league baseball stadium would go. As you know, we conducted an advisory sort of question during one of the presidential balloting. I think it was in '04. Residents rejected that, fairly close, but they still rejected it, not wanting us to spend $20 million on a baseball stadium. I think it was a wise decision by the voters in retrospect, because I think we would have a baseball stadium right now that would be empty. That would be empty due to the economy. So once that didn't go through, we've then come up with an alternative use here. The benefits for the city are as follows. One is that we would take this property, put it back in the tax rolls, begin developing tax revenues from the property. Two, we would have a significant amount of jobs created in the construction of the facility. Would not be unfair to say, I think Mr. Shepard at one point had done an analysis, but 300 to 400 construction jobs during the entire 18 months of construction. And then there would be permanent jobs there as well. Again, would not be out of the question to say several hundred would be created by the location of this facility there. Everything from car counts to impact to the neighborhood are significantly lower than would be a baseball stadium. So we think it's more fitting. It also ties in closely with the residential development there. People will be able to bike and walk to this facility, this lifestyle center, and be able to utilize it. So we think it's a win-win for the city. And of course, finally, the price of the land has been proposed at $3.2 million. And I believe we had programmed that revenue into the 11-12 budget.
Yep.
During the last budget deliberation. Certainly, if the council decides not to sell it, that's fine. We just got to find $3.2 million between now and but that's not really. I think there's much more reasons why to do this than that, because I think this just makes good sense and it's good economic development for the community.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pinter, you have anything that you want to throw out here at this point?
Not that much this time, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, our office will process any paperwork, prepare a contract of sale, discuss the elements with the proposed developer, and answer any questions that might come up during that.
Okay. Dave, do you have anything you want to?
I think the mayor did a good job in summarizing.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add one more thing. Originally, this was also, to give you context, the city had purchased about 200 acres across the street for open space, and this came up at the same time. Although they were different players, it was, there was some concern, well, geez, we'd be selling property, and but at the same time, we did execute that sale and acquired that space. So for those that might be concerned that, well, we're losing 13 acres, we just took 200 off the tax roll. So
Is that the property that you're referring to? Is that being used?
A lot of it's passive recreation. There's a lot of hiking. The Boy Scouts are using it a lot for trails. They've been doing a really good job. We are in the process of going to be. There's one house that's vacant that we're going to lease it similar to what we do with Terrywile, to have a permanent residence on there where somebody can kind of keep an eye on. People might be using for inappropriate people, but people are kayaking on the lake there, and they're fishing and doing all those other things. Eventually, Antonio and Duke want to put in a small, modest gravel parking area from the other side of the street, so people can pull right in and trailhead.
Kind of lost sight of that place.
Yeah.
Shay, anything you want to?
Yes, through the chair, through David St. Hilaire. A rough estimate of how much money will be going back as far as collecting of taxes on this 13 acres?
About $50,000. About if it's if there's no other exemptions related to it. But no, I would say as a vacant land.
That's the raw land.
That's the raw land.
Right.
Yeah.
And then once it's developed?
Well, depends on the valuation of what's built there. I mean, that's a little bit difficult to estimate at this point, but
30 million, maybe 20 to 30 million would be outrageous, I think, in total raw construction.
Oh, the value of the
Yeah.
completed project?
Yeah.
I would say it's at least $30 million.
Okay.
So you're probably looking at a couple
The
hundred.
value of a completed project, yeah.
Take,
70%, you're looking at 1.8, 1.7
Yeah,
million a year.
that's about right.
Not counting all the property taxes and personal property for restaurant equipment, leases, everything else.
Okay. And again, through the chair, if I may, to Mr. Alpern.
It's over here.
Ah, there you go. Sorry. As far as the zoning is concerned, obviously it would need to be amended and changed. What, I don't know how far along, I don't know if you've looked at it already and how easy it would be.
Well, how easy would it be? You mean, can I get it through?
Well, I mean, based on your professional opinion, is this something?
Yeah, I think so. How we go about doing it is still something that I'm looking at. There are several options, but, and of course I'm looking for the easiest option. You could rezone the whole thing C80, but that would preclude any residential development. Or you could simply, because it's part of P&D and it's designated as, quote, municipal, you could simply define what does that mean and add an amendment to the master plan.
So it's possible, do you think it's?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's nothing that would preclude positive consideration by the zoning commission.
Thank you.
And I would probably want to add some language in there. Because we're selling land, I think the city is going to want to look at proposed development on that site before you just sell the land. All right. There are a multitude of uses that are allowed in CAE, and I have a pretty good idea what they're looking at, but just to protect yourself, protect the city.
That's why you may want to use the
want to
PND.
look at a site plan.
You may want to amend the PND because it's a little more control there.
Yeah. You would look at a site plan, see what they're proposing. Does it meet all of our use regulations? Is it the kind of development the city wants or has no objection to? And that would be all part of the sale. And that would be, it wouldn't be a full bore site plan, but it would lay out the uses and approximate locations and so on. And then once that is approved, contract is signed, and the site plan, when it comes in, would comply with that. And of course, at that point, you go in much greater detail. But the purchaser then has the comfort of knowing that the city is in favor of that kind of development.
Mr. Cheese, did you have a question?
Well, I have a few. I just want to follow up on Jay's question again through the chair regarding the zoning. So it's the intention that the city will make the application to the commission to change that zoning, not the applicant itself.
Otherwise, the applicant is making an application for a petition to change the zoning for land they do not own. And, well, they could do it, but I wouldn't. I mean, I don't even own the land yet. So I think the city ought to proceed. It's still our land.
So we would be making it. The city would be making it.
Okay. So do you-
Yes.
But so how long would the sale take place again? So I would imagine it'll be by February 1st, the sale will go through.
No, it would.
March 1st.
It'll be contingent on.
Public hearing.
Well, contingent on, we have a public hearing to go through. We also, I'm sure that the contract to sale will say the zoning has to be in place. I don't know if site plan approval has to be in place, but your two.
The zoning
Yeah.
for the sale.
And that can't happen that fast. That's,
Okay.
springtime, I think, late spring would probably be more.
So it'll be the zoning request first, then the sale will go through. at that point.
Well, I just want to be clear, the sale will take place once the zoning doesn't get approved,
Yes.
there's no sale.
It's contingent.
It's contingent, it's a contingency.
Through the chair. I mean, I think it's the intention of the council to sell this piece. I think 3 years ago, I mean, the lease was approved the first time around, except we had a language issue which delayed it
Yeah.
for a while. But that lease called for a $2 million upfront payment, I think. Was it for the first 7 years, 2 million?
I think the first 10 years.
2.5 and then no rent.
Right, right.
But at that time, I think the land was appraised somewhere around 7 million?
No.
No.
We've had appraisals,
High threes.
yeah, all over the map.
Yeah, but that was 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
So has this piece been appraised currently, or we're just going by assessor's records?
No, yeah, I'm trying to think, I thought, and I don't want to speak for Paul, but I thought you guys had an appraisal of about 2.5, and I thought we had one around 4, roughly 4-ish, I don't remember less. It was
Sounds about right, yes.
And so we sort of settled in the middle at
So,
3.2.
but there's an appraisal on file.
It's old, it's,
We've been appraised in 2009.
yeah.
It's about 2.5, 3
Right.
As I mentioned, the CA 80 zone allows a lot of things, including, for example, storage, sale, rental, or repair of construction equipment, things. And I don't think anybody wants that. That's not what we're looking for, and it's not what they want.
Right.
But it would put people's minds at ease.
But one of the comforts of the land lease was to give the city some control of what could be built.
Well, you can do it if you put in your contract of sale what's allowed.
It's,
Consistent with whatever the zone.
And your not to interject, but your corporation council can incorporate restrictions going forward that survive the closing, that talk about what we could do in the future. So even though we have a site plan approval, we develop the project as per that site plan approval, 10 years later, let's say I go bananas and I was going to knock the whole thing down and I want to put construction equipment in there, I can't do it because there would be deed restrictions going forward that would talk about use of the property into the future.
okay, that's what I had deed.
And it would apply to their errors and signs as well.
So it's the intentions of the city to have deed restrictions in the current.
Yeah.
For that.
Well, that's what
Whatever
I'm
the best
suggesting.
legal mechanism is to do that, I think,
I don't-
yeah, whatever Les said, and Bob would recommend is the best legal mechanism, through you, Mr. Chair. And I would just say, Paul's stuck with us now for 4 years waiting for this to happen. So I don't think he's gonna walk, and I think it's his intention to put down what he says he's gonna put down. Having said that, like everybody else, we wanna cut the cards and make sure that the city's interest is protected. So Les can work that out with your
Our
attorney.
attorneys, yes.
I'm just worried about 15, 20 years down where if developer changes it over, the new tenant may change that around to get rid of the theater because it's not in best use of today, at that time.
Well, you can't, although you can say what can be used going forward and what can't be done going forward, you can't economically legislate that a theater or a particular business stays in business, because it may become economically unviable. I mean, you can have a theater, the best theater in the world, but if nobody goes to watch a movie, it's not going to survive, So you put you do your best, you put your best foot forward, and you hope for the best. The restrictions are more to make sure that radical things don't happen. Like I say, you don't go from a theater to a construction equipment yard, that kind of
That would
thing.
not be good.
So the cultural village theme will stay in.
Yes.
Sort of in place.
Yes.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, we did have schematics. Those are still valid, the ones that you saw, and we can update those as, I'm sure Paul won't mind updating them as we get closer. But,
No, absolutely.
Pitch roofs, remember the really attractive drawings of how this was going to look, so.
I mean, it was a nice drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be,
That hasn't changed.
it's more in this new genre of lifestyle centers where wider sidewalks, much more landscaping, boulevard type, with streets and sidewalks that would allow for outdoor dining, like, sidewalk cafes and things like that.
A small performance area.
Right, a small performance area. If a musical group or choral group or something wants to perform on a Thursday evening in the spring or something, that kind of thing.
In the baseball field.
Another advantage of going through by amending community master plan
I think that's the best way to do it.
is that it also adds uses. We can add municipal uses. Let's suppose the deal falls through and several years from now, we decide to revisit a ballpark or something, but then we can do that. You can't do that under CA 80. We could do it if we amend the master plan. It's all in the wording. We could allow, if it appears wise, some residential, some mixed use, something of that nature.
Single bedroom loft apartments.
Yeah, something of that nature, a small apartment. And, you know, that gives us an added,
Hotel.
it gives us it gives us added flexibility, but we still have control. Think of it, Ben, as kind of like on redevelopment. When we gave land to developers, well, they had to sign a contract saying they were gonna use it for this and that. And that's what we approved it for. So it's something akin to that, although hopefully not as full of so much red tape.
Although, Mr. Chairman, if I can just interject to Ben and to anybody listening, we did that with the sale of the Main Street property, and if you remember, the council put in some restrictions on there, and it's worked out, you know, it's working out pretty well. Everybody's really intent on doing what was agreed upon, and there's an activity there, the old police station's down, new bank is going up, so good stuff.
Again, my question, so the motion from this committee here would be a motion to refer to public hearing? Or to the
And I think
council as a whole?
I think we're ahead of ourselves, if I can just throw that out. Before I'm prepared to vote for this, and I apologize for cutting you off, before I'm prepared to vote on this, I'd like to go in, I spoke to Mr. Fuller prior to the meeting, when we met some time ago, there was there was an idea of this committee or the council
And we
members.
did offer that, Mr. Chairman, and nobody took us up on it.
Well, I wanted to see
Oh, they're
it.
going down.
Yeah, and Mr. Foley tonight told me that he'd be inclined to set something up. If there's opposition to that, then...
I think we can do both. I mean, there's no reason why we can't,
Same time.
we can't say, you know, we can't do, we can't move this issue forward, and at the same time schedule a time where we all can go down and check out the other facility.
If that's
That-
true,
that's a
then
bad
I'm
meeting.
fine with that.
We can do both at the same
That we
time.
get the public,
Is that okay, Bob? Yes.
right, if they wish to attend as well, they could as well.
Saturday morning, or we'll schedule that with, and I'll put that up to
Why
you
don't you
guys.
just check your schedules, let me know what's good for you.
And you gotta go away though.
Yeah, but I'll work around your schedule.
Okay.
So.
But I just want to get the timeline for this commission. It has to go to a public hearing,
Correct.
which we can do simultaneously with the tour.
Right.
And we're not waiting for the zone change. Does that need to be in a motion of this commission?
No.
No.
You would get involved in this.
We wouldn't get involved.
I'm gonna go ahead with that anyway, because we've got a piece of land. The way it's written right now, we have a piece of land that just says municipal, and it doesn't define what that means. And the master plan doesn't define what that means. Don't blame me, anyway. Okay? So we have to flesh that out. And that's what I wanna do. So that whoever has it, whether we have it, or whether it is conveyed to a private party, people know what they can do with the land.
Does this committee have to meet again, Greg?
I was inclined to go that way. Before a motion, and again, I apologize for cutting you off, I understand what you're doing. We have other members of the council, I want to just open up, and if any of those guys have any questions, then I'd like to allow that. Joe, do you have any questions or anything? Jack?
Just one quick question. At the very beginning, we talked about the taxes. There's no exemptions, no deferrals that are associated with this property, and I'm not offering them.
I thought you were.
Just out of curiosity, we don't have nothing that's going to slow down the tax dollars once this does move forward?
Right, that's correct. There's nothing, no incentives.
Okay. And then the other thing, having served on zoning for several years, how quickly do we need to get this in front? If you're going to defer it, and we're not going to have it on our February docket, and if you're going to hold off on this, we don't have it on the February docket, it doesn't go off until March. Is that going to put us under too tight of a time frame to get this completed
That's to you, Mark.
in the time?
I would stick by my first suggestion, which is, I was down there several years ago. I'm up for going back down, so if anybody wants to do that. But we can follow this on 2 tracks, and you certainly, you know, at the public hearing, we follow by the committee of the whole, blow it up if you want to, although we don't need to even have a committee committee of the whole at that point, because this is, I guess my point is, you can always, pull back if it's something that you don't want to do. But it keeps hitting our marks, because we do have a June, we'd like to get this sewn up by June 30th. And that would be the end of our fiscal year, so.
That would be somewhere before that, that'd be a closing date? Is that what you're saying?
We'd like to, we can
So I
have
know.
contingencies, but I think it would be helpful if we can keep things going on both tracks. Organize a trip, refer back to the council to be referred out to public hearing, or, right, Les? Isn't that
Public
the-
hearing posting.
Would that be the next step, though, or has been asked?
Yeah, it would be, if, once the recommendation of this committee, presumably positive, goes back to the council, then you refer it to public hearing, and if committee of the whole or not. And then return to the council to follow,
Yeah.
the following month. You would also, if you're going to approve this, you would also
It would be
declare the property surplus.
Council of the whole does that.
I think we've done that once already, though, haven't we?
We have, but there's
You could put in a
there's some
motion.
parliamentary issues, the lease.
Just to be
kind of-
safe, put in the motion.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt anything, it doesn't hurt to redeclare that. Right. So anyway, if you return to the council in February, public hearing, let's say in February sometime, back in March, you do the posting by that time, you'd be well within time. But you want to reserve yourself some time, just in case.
The other thing, Mr. Chairman, I'd be cognizant of is that Mr. Foley's going to have to start investing some real money in hard costs. The longer, that we delay on making a decision, the more difficult that job becomes. So certainty is always important in these kinds of things. So again, my recommendation is do a 2-track. Continue to, we'll do a trip. I think that's important, and members of the public want to attend. We can probably figure that out as well.
Maybe we could do a trip, or, it's an operating movie theater, so
Right.
anybody, wants to go down there and take their wife to the movies, it's there anytime, so. Yeah,
But there's
you get to see the whole thing.
There's stores around there.
Oh, sure,
Same
yeah, absolutely.
concept.
Yes.
So we can do that, and, but also keep hitting our timeline going forward. That's agreeable to the chair.
That's fine. Andrew, did you have anything, Mike? Joe?
Through the chair to Mr. President. Mr. President, this property will also require a sign posted on it in accordance with the ordinance statute for sale of public property.
Yes.
Posted for how long?
We posted, I think it's for 2 separate notifications in the paper, posted for, I think it's 5 days.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we get that covered too.
Right.
And through the chair to Mr. Cottle, we did do that the first time. We're going to do it again, just so nobody says that we didn't. But just so
Right.
we did meet that requirement once before. We'll
Yeah,
do it again.
we wouldn't do it again had there not been a lag time because of the, the time that's passed and the council's tabling of the matter.
Shay?
Thank you, then. Through the chair, then I would like to ask our corporation counsel to assist us in this motion, which is okay. So I'd like to make a motion then to declare 13+ acres on Old Ridgeberry Road as described surplus pursuant to Code of Ordinances Section 2-133 and in accordance with Planning Commission approval as received, and authorize the sale of the property to Realty Equities Group for $3.2 million, subject to the purchaser obtaining zoning approval for CA 80 use, public hearing, and but actually we're going to scratch that. We're not going to do that.
Just play zoning approval.
Zoning approval, public hearing, and posting as required by law.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, just before you
Yep.
go on that, seconds in, there's 2 short optional clauses that I put in there also. The top one is if the committee and the council wants to leave the contract negotiation and consummation to administration. The second optional clause, if you want the proposed contract returned to the council for additional approval. So you have your choices. If you just want to leave it to us, once the council approves this finally. In other words, you give us the option of preparing and consummating the contract without returning to the council with the final contract, or you can opt to have the contract back to you for final approval.
Well, that was the problem with the lease. We went back and got this issue.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Chase, the irony is, last spring, we did have the lease ready to go, but we pulled back when we said, why don't we just sell the property versus leasing it? So it's not a problem for us to do it that way if you want to put the contract. I guess the process in my mind, I'm thinking is you forward it to public hearing for February. have the public hearing, you don't need a committee of the whole, and then when the contract's ready, you just vote on the contract at with a subsequent council meeting. It's made its stopping committee, and one of the things we will try to do is get the contract out to everybody ahead of time, so people questions to ask, can ask those ahead of time.
The issue last time, we didn't get.
It got unwieldy.
We didn't get the final thing, just too many changes
Right.
that kept happening.
Right.
Yeah, so, but the actual terms would be negotiated.
Right.
By the city, not with the
Not by
council.
us, right.
So we'll put in the clause, together with all associated and necessary material, terms as may be negotiated by the parties.
Right, that gives us the chance to prepare and finish the contract, return it to you, and then we can approve everything at once, as opposed to coming back later to find.
All right, now the motion has been made. Mr. Cheney, please second. Okay, motion is made and second. Is there any further discussion from the committee?
One quick thing, Mr. Chairman. So the tour, do you want to do that offline? We'll schedule that and put it out to the whole council?
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Okay, so that's not part of the motion, but it's understood and implied in this meeting that this will be arranged, right?
Yes.
Find out
Yeah,
who wants to
we'll
go
pick a date
and what their availability is.
We'll email it.
We'll figure it out. Sure.
Those of us who are retired, our schedules are flexible.
Every day is a Saturday.
No, it's not.
The minutes, can I ask where his other building is?
Westchester.
Westchester.
White Plains? Pleasantville.
Yep.
Okay,
Manville Road and Pleasantville.
back to the motion. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion amongst the members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll try your minds. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is passed.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion is passed unanimously. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Dykstra. Motion is made to adjourn. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your efforts.
Okay, I'd like to call this ad hoc meeting to order. I'd like to read the meeting notice. This meeting is for the lease and license renewal for the Danbury Railroad Museum. It's 7:15 p.m. Tuesday, January 17, 2012, in Caucus Room, 3rd floor, City Hall. My name is Shane Ayersheth. I'm the chairperson of this committee, and we also have committee members Michael Hallis and Frederick Visconti. And if I may have everyone else self-identify themselves for the record, starting with our corporation counsel.
Les Pinter, Deputy Corporation Counsel.
Rick Palazzo, Superintendent of Public Buildings.
Wade Rose, Danbury Railroad Museum. Steve Gould, Danbury Railway Museum.
Jeff Heil, Counsel for Danbury Railway Museum.
Thank you. Maybe if we can have corporation counsel start by going over the exact charge of this committee and why this is before us.
Chairman, may I have the map on the table for the committee to take a look at what area at least we're talking about, for Mike and Fred's benefit, Chad, you as well. Just to give you a perspective, this is the Danbury Railway Museum on White Street, on this far end of the map that you see over here. And you have the Metro North Station on the other side, the commuter line running around back and forth, you know. Around 1994 or so, the city of Danbury signed a lease agreement and a license agreement with the state of Connecticut, which permitted the use of what for now we'll call this center area, which is highlighted in yellow for you. And in there is the issue that we're here for tonight, that in the documentation that allowed the use of that in 1994, there had to be a correction made to actually identify the full area of the land being used by the city, which technically then was, and legally, was transferred to the Danbury Railway Museum, because they're the ones, as an adjunct to the museum itself, use the facility for different purposes, this area here. Now, in 1994, there was both a lease agreement for the use of this property signed, as well as a license agreement for some elements of access to the site. And what happened, and the state brought this to our attention a year or so ago, was that for some reason, and the reason is not really material, it is largely an oversight or clerical, that the property that was identified was actually a lot smaller than the area that should have been identified in the original documentation. So that has been corrected after some long and arduous meetings, which Jeff and the other gentlemen all were involved in. So from 1994 forward ahead to 2012, since the council approved the original agreements for the lease and license between the state and Danbury, and then subsequently by separate agreement from Danbury to the museum, similarly, now 18 years later, we need to ask for your approval to correct the incorrect designation and provide the full correct map, which shows the depiction of the full size of the property that the Railway Museum is using, which is 10.3 acres. And both the lease and license agreement have been corrected to reflect that. A question came up during the discussions with the state as to whether the city wishes to continue to be the middleman between the state and the museum. And that question was tossed around for a while, and it was determined after some discussions with the folks downstairs in the Engineering and Public Works Department, because there are some utility issues involved, that the city wanted to continue to maintain its middleman status. Therefore, we would sign onto the new lease once the council gave us the approval as well as the license. But the museum would continue to be, if you will, the beneficiary, the legal beneficiary of the documents. Second reason is that in case in the future there's some grant money available, if the city maintains its position as the primary tenant, we may be more likely to obtain grant money or other money that may be useful to the museum. So it helps in at least those two ways. And in addition, the utility issues and other elements that the city wants some level of control over would be maintained. Now, the lease agreement you received and the license agreement you received has been recently modified. The lease agreement itself, again, clarifies the size and the identification of the parcel at 10.3 acres. It identifies some other provisions which we'll take care of upon approval, which includes providing insurance certificates from Danbury. It includes an agreement to maintain, to a certain extent, those utilities and other appurtenances that we're responsible for. And so those have been updated. What the state official told me was that since the 1994, mid-90s lease and license agreements were basically pretty old by now, they needed to update the documents to throw in some new clauses that have been adopted for standard state contracts. And so those are in the new agreements. There's not a lot that's different substantively otherwise, except for the identification of the site, which is the critical component. So what you're being asked to do is to recommend the approval of the new documents, the new lease agreement, the new license agreement, to update the information, correct the information, and to adopt all of the provisions that the state has modified its agreements with, which are largely clerical in nature. There's nothing in there that I saw that was significant or materially problematic for us.
So, just to clarify, the documents that we received, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and the documents that we just now received, what is the difference?
I asked the state official to tell us what that is after you had asked me.
Yep.
And they said that most of the changes, this is from the state DOT, most of the changes in the attached revisions are non-substantive or cosmetic, except the addition of item 36 in the lease specification, which is new. And I took a look at 36, Article 36 of the agreements, page 16. It basically says that there's an identification of the state, I guess, which must have changed. There's also a reference to a period of 10 years that the city has to maintain copies of records required by law pertaining to environmental conditions on the subject property. So it's largely an environmental clause which is either new or modified since 1994. That was added. That's the material clause that the state official told us we have to adopt. And otherwise, it's, as he says, it's largely cosmetic. I didn't go through the cosmetic stuff because they didn't highlight it. I can, and I probably will before the next time you meet full council. But I don't think they're of concern. I've been working with Adamski for a while. So those are the changes. You can discard the previous copies you have.
Okay.
They're no longer relevant.
And for the record, I would like to state that we did receive a positive recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Mr. Chairman, one other thing I wanted to mention, that we've been operating under a temporary agreement with the state while this correction was made. So we're okay, but they've been getting very antsy because there's been a delay in putting it all together, getting all the final arrangements done. So the sooner the council can approve this, the more likely it is that the state will not throw us out. Which would be bad.
Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through the chair, through the corporation council. Les, what is the years now on the lease system? How many years was it?
We're up, the base lease is up to 2027, and there's I believe two 10-year terms. So to 2047 would be the full term.
So each lease then is 10 years, and then we would renew it for another 10 years?
The lease is through 2027, which is another 15, plus 10, plus 10. We've been trying to get, I think the Railroad Museum has asked for an additional extension of ideally 40 years more. We did ask for that. They haven't really given us any firm answers yet, but at least we got the 15 plus 10 plus 10.
Okay. Through the chair, follow-up. Is this, what we're looking at now, the 15-year deal with, is that okay with you for now until we see what may happen down the line? Or
Yeah.
it's livable?
Yeah, that's livable, yeah.
It's got such an investment. I mean, there's how many pieces of stock now?
670.
Yeah. You know, it's plus for grant money, you know, the more longevity we have in the leases and more stability, and what Les said, you know, having the city involved is huge for us to continue to grow, you know, and drive economic development in that area of the city as well.
Right.
So anything we can do to, you know, without being ridiculous. And fortunately, the state, you know, they get antsy, but they're slower than the rest of us at the end of the day. But you know, as you know,
Two bureaucracies competing for slowness.
we don't have that conversation. That's a good way to
Move
put
the
it.
cameras on.
With all due respect.
Except the federal government there.
I have no further questions.
No? Yes, sir. Okay. Anything at this time?
No, I think, through the chair, I think it's pretty straightforward. As long as everything meets requirements that you need to, you know, for grant money and things like that to move forward and keep you stable. I think you guys do a great job, and it's an asset for the city of Danbury, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
How many folks came to the museum last year?
Between 20 and 25,000 people.
Wow.
And I don't know the exact count, but we have people worldwide. We definitely have people countrywide, and we're, I think, drawing a lot of people from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York.
Do your hours change?
Yes. We have summer hours and winter hours, yes.
Here. It's cold out in that rail yard these days.
Yes. I mean,
Flat and cold.
you know, pass those around, and I also brought what our schedule is for 2012, that way. And if you want, these will buy me
on those.
Good for the families.
But the hours and so forth are all.
Madam Chair, Wade, just for my own benefit, how far up do you go? Do you go to the round table and all that area?
We go, yes, our lead tracks go past the turntable.
Turntable, round table.
Roundhouse.
We go to approximately 12 feet west of the switch that Metro North uses.
Now, we did ask for, and the state granted, allow us to
Grant
go
us
about 80
basically-
feet further out.
Yeah,
You have to
that's
move the
shown on
fence.
there,
And
yeah.
that's shown on there, only so that we can add another coach to one of our trains. Because we have to stop at the fence, we have.
They don't want us going outside of our fence line.
Right.
And right now, the way the gate is configured, it limits by a coach length.
Yeah.
So, when you,
Goes
when you
about
have
100 feet east of the end of the turntable.
when you have like your Easter thing and the Christmas thing and everything,
Everything that we do, all of our events open to the public are within the facility or within our fence lines.
Yeah.
And that was the issue that came up with the state, since the fence line was beyond the old property that showed on the map. We were concerned that, is there a liability here? And that's why we wanted this clarified.
Yeah.
So that people were on property that was legally ours to be using. And that's why the temporary
Yeah.
issue was given to us to continue using that.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, and I don't know, Corporation Council has the answer, or maybe you do, but, so this is 10.3. What was the other one? What was the one that was incorrect?
I have another map somewhere else, but it's.
Approximately 6.5 or something like that.
I don't know, I'm not sure if it's.
I don't-
There it is. This was
There we
the,
go, yeah.
this was the,
This is the area that we added.
this was the area originally
Right.
incorrectly referenced. So this top half of this
Right.
large piece, this is the property that needed to be added.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right about here.
So this is the violating, premises, if you will,
Yeah.
that was being used, but it wasn't formally. But the temporary agreement covered us, so we don't have a problem at this time.
And up until the time the temporary agreement was signed, we stopped running over those tracks until the document was firmly in place. So, just to be sure.
Typically, when we have events at the museum, there's a train that will stage right here, then it'll run up to here, and then it's up to about here.
Right.
And then switch.
Takes the far
And then
track.
We have been going down with this temporary agreement down here.
Yep.
Prior to that, before we knew there was any issue, we were going down this way.
Yep.
So when everything is solidified, assuming it's passed, we'll resume operations down this way.
But the temporary agreement allowed us to continue our regular operations.
There's also an issue, there's also an issue too of maintenance. I just reminded myself, maintenance of the Class 1 standard of
Yep.
track, right? So that's something that's.
As far as track work is concerned,
Okay.
yeah. Yep.
So that's a kind of a soft condition in this as well, but the railroad is aware of that.
Yeah. And there was a question about insurance. I know that every year we have an insurance certificate sent to, was it?
Dan Garrick?
Your insurance?
Oh,
Roger?
Kerma.
Yeah, or Roger, what is it, Rogers? What's her name?
Oh, Sandy Rogers?
Sandy Rogers.
She's not here anymore.
Oh, okay.
Has to go to Dan Garrett.
Has to go to Dan Garrick now.
Wait a minute, all
I
right,
would say same office, Director of Finance.
Okay, let me just have the name, because I just wanted, it does, what was it again, Dan?
Dan Garrick, Garrick.
Okay, good.
The executive board here does a great job in making sure everything is run orderly and safely. Since I've been with the museum, about 9 years now as council, and if anything, we've improved a lot, and they do a great job in monitoring the facility, making sure people are safe and volunteers are safe. So, yeah, and have fun once in a while too. So.
It's a good part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie Barlow would be proud.
Yeah, he would, yeah, he sure would. Yeah.
Any other questions, committee members? No? Okay. Take a motion of sorts. Yeah.
You're good.
I'd like to make a motion at this time, Mr. Chairman, to accept the renewed lease and license renewal for Danbury Railroad Museum. Corrected, I shouldn't say corrected.
Through the chair, Fred, if I can, I had prepared a motion.
Oh, okay.
Go on. Just to make sure the state is happy.
You wait till next year.
You did.
New motion.
Next year will be a long time, Fred.
Yeah,
Just early in the year.
One of those nights. Recommend the approval of a revised lease and revised license agreement between the city and state DOT for continued and expanded use and for rights-of-way at the Metro North facility on White Street, Patriot Drive, by the city and the Danbury Railroad Museum for museum purposes, together with approval of associated revisions as may be necessary of any related agreements between the city and the Danbury Railroad Museum.
Okay, motion is made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. House. Any discussion by committee members? No? We'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? No? Motion passes unanimously. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Councilman Alves. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I would have never thought of that last.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Rory Duraco with the Danbury Police Department. We're asking you to please refrain from using your handheld electronic device while operating your motor vehicle. This has caused citizens property damage, personal injury, and loss of life. So please, when you're operating your motor vehicle, keep your hands on the wheel, your eyes on the road, not on your phone. Thank you.
When you cook at home, please remember a few important safety factors. Do not at any time leave cooking unattended. Don't leave the kitchen, go into the living room to watch television, and please don't ever go lie down and take a nap. Right here in Danbury, we frequently have fires that have been caused by untended cooking fires. Recently, we had a fire that resulted in a serious injury as a result of cooking because it was untended. This individual has survived the fire, but the damage to the home was severe. At all times, remember, don't wear loose clothing and pay attention to what you're doing. It is critically important that you also maintain your smoke detectors, as they are the first detector that will alert you to a problem in your kitchen. Remember, if you're cooking a meal, you're cooking and preparing it for you and your family, and you don't ever want to invite us into your home for dinner.
Please don't invite us to dinner.